This is the first video I've done about my own poetry. I published my book on April 3rd, 2023. Here it is, To a Sunbeam and Other Poems. I thought I would take the opportunity now here to introduce you to it and read a poem from it. Why is the title To a Sunbeam? Well, across many poems, in various ways, the sun makes an appearance, sometimes as a sunset or a sunrise, sometimes it's personified, sometimes it's a symbol for clarity or intensity, or a metaphor for something. This sun motif wasn't actually something I planned as I was writing these poems, but when I was thinking about them as a whole for the book, I discovered it. It was a lucky thing, and it gave me the idea for the title. The title is derived from the title of one of the poems, but that poem is To a Sunbeam Caught in a Cloud. That phrase, caught in a cloud, is relevant to the context of that poem, but not relevant to the book as a whole, because the book title needed to be more general to accommodate all the different ways the sun is presented. That's why I didn't use the full title of the poem for the book. So, because the book owes its title to it, it's fitting that To a Sunbeam Caught in a Cloud is the first poem of mine that I present. This poem was a delight to write, and it's one of my most playful poems. A lot of the other poems in the book are quite serious, but with this one, I let my imagination run a little freer and take me to fun places. The speaker addresses personified sunlight directly, condensed into the image of a single sunbeam, and scolds it because it's not breaking through the clouds. So it's a bit of fantasy that stands for the realistic perspective. It's cloudy, and I wish it weren't. But why does the speaker wish it weren't cloudy? Well, To a Sunbeam Caught in a Cloud is a love poem. In the story of the poem, it has been a particularly overcast, wet summer. But there are these particular flowers that need a lot of sunlight, and they happen to be the favorite of the speaker's girlfriend, who has to be away for most of the summer. The speaker and she are deeply in love, so the speaker misses her dreadfully. He had planned to grow a huge amount of these flowers over the summer to present to her as a gift when she comes back. But because of the weather, the lack of sun, they're not flourishing, and there's a risk the speaker won't be able to give her his meaningful gift. This poem was fun to write also technically. It's a long poem in tetrameter. Tetrameter has 4 beats per line. If you had known it, sunbeam bright. That's the first line. Before this poem, I had written some shorter and stanzaic tetrameter, but mostly I had written pentameter, 5 beats per line. With that 1 extra beat in pentameter, you have more options for what you can do structurally within the span of the line, which can make it harder to decide what to do. I found the limitation of only 4 beats made it easier to create lines that cadence at the end, meaning they create a slight pause. One example, she took it with a gesture grand. That's a line and phrase that pauses at the end in terms of sense, because we end on that inverted adjective-noun pair, which closes the subject-verb-object unit and sounds therefore sufficient on its own, thus creating a little cadence at the line end. Another example, O beauteous envoy, I do love thee. A salutation followed by a clause that cadences on the final and 4th beat. Here's another, and by it she will know what pain. That cadences slightly by ending on a noun, although we do need more information because pain is only the object of the clause in the next line, and the next line is, to lack her felt her tender swain. So we have a very slight cadence on pain, but the sense pulls us over the line, and at swain we have a comparatively heavier cadence because the sense is complete. So together, and by it she will know what pain to lack her felt her tender swain. You might have heard from the last example that this is written in rhyming couplets. There are a few instances where there are triplets, and there's even a quadruplet, but those are exceptional. This rhyme scheme was another reason it was a delight to write, because it was easier. The rhyme is not very far away. It comes only 4 beats later, and once you have it, you can move on as far as solving the puzzle of the rhyme is concerned. An example of a harder rhyme scheme to solve is pentameter AB, AB. The next rhyme is 10 beats away, so you have to extend and plan the thought with the rhyme across that much more material, which is harder to do. In other words, if you consider each rhyme a puzzle in tetrameter couplets, the puzzle is relatively quickly solved and is independent of the other puzzles. ABAB is harder to solve because there are two puzzles woven into each other. This poem might have my favorite passage in the whole book. In this passage, as arguments for why the sunbeam should come out and shine, the speaker is recalling moments that he spent with his girlfriend that concerned these flowers. One scene recalled is as follows. The pair is lying on the grass, and the speaker plucks one of the flowers and gives it to her, pretending it's a messenger that asks her to come and give him a kiss. And she gives an adorable speech to the flower, saying mock angrily that a lover needs to ask for such things himself and not send messengers. Then she blows the flower in his face and they have a laugh together. What's also playful is the speaker pretends that he's the ruler of a land who's addressing his girlfriend as the ruler of another land. That means two separate states uniting for mutual benefit is the metaphor for the strong bond of their love. And the messenger, the flower, travels as if to a foreign state to conduct business of the treaty. But he's rejected because such important matters need to be conducted by the heads of those states, not an intermediary. I think it's one of the sweetest narrated moments in the book. I'd be very interested to hear what you think of it. This is To a Sunbeam Caught in a Cloud. If you had known it, sunbeam bright, when at your flaming sire's height, upgrowing from its native spark, the thought possessed you to embark upon a course through heaven's own, your blazing zeal your friend alone, perchance to light some world, or find, alas, all to the void consigned. Ah, who would not suspect the way, how night and nebule so dismay? If you had known the tidings mild, that you weren't destined, sunny child, endless to roam the darkness wild, but on these flowers at last to settle, and coax the color to the petal, how brighter had your smile been, at first director your careen, through the drear regions had you sped, by 'ticement of far wonder led, and so had you the rain cloud riven. How can such choler be forgiven, that even of the gentlest flock no cloud would dare your coming block, and night could not make used return, because you had with warning stern the earth persuaded not to turn, that these fair blooms might not dispense with your life gladdening influence. And you had bidden fellow beams to rally by you for these dreams, their wonted ways to follow not, till day were known but from this spot. For these sweet flowers kept from your sight are my dear maiden's dear delight. Her cheer most thrives if they do thrive, then her not of her cheer deprive. How high her spirits skyward shift, when breezes their sweet perfume lift, like hands of ardent votaries, who would with gifts their goddess please. And oh, when she so skilful trims a room with these, or gushing brims of jolly pots, show me the tomb so trimmed could revel in a gloom. And have you seen one wreathe her hair with them, or with one blossom bear one ornament so charmingly, so naturally her blouse as she? But nothing shall my plaint promote, if not my quaintest anecdote. Once, stretched on the grass supine, I plucked one of these blooms divine, and proffered it her. Kneeling by, playing the blossom, announced I, Greetings from that foreign state, with whom you lately made debate on terms of mutual benefit. Now I his lordship's hest submit. He asks your presence for a kiss, to full enact your allied bliss. She took it with a gesture grand, and placed it in her cupped hand, bespeaking it in such a wise, when gazes fond gave way to sighs. O beauteous envoy, I do love thee, forbear the thought I could reprove thee, or be, forbid it, blind, dismissive of thy statehead's gracious missive. But this thou'lt have for thy response. Hearken sure, thou get'st it once, and bring it back to him post haste, who sends thee suing and then waits, lest our sweet treaty abrogate, and forfeit be the fair estate. Here swept her hand along herself. He shall his missives bear himself. She laughed, and with a kiss endued it, then at my cheek she gently blew it. This is the plot upon the lawn, whither often we have gone, where we did plant in careless hours an ample number of her flowers. Now I would cull some for bouquet, daintily ranged and plentifully gay, and by it she will know what pain to lack her felt her tender swain. To see her again, what rapturous lift by the profusion of my gift. Thus daily there my business first, with clearest drink I slake their thirst. No blight their beauty can traverse, no worm their bosoms may coerce, so long as I my care them plight. But sure is not their health despite, so much upon your bless depending. Then be as constant as my tending. Burst the cloud, sustain your heat, to joy 'tis the only temper meet. Oh, wherefore else, light pioneer, did you depart your golden sphere? What reason better to fly and fear than to be the cause of lovers' cheer? I've told you already what my favorite part is in the poem. Do you have one? Write it in the comments. If you liked the poem, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking the video. If you really liked the poem and want to see the text and want to read more poems, please go to my website, brandondumont.com/books, to buy a copy, and the link is in the description. And there's also a PDF version of the book. If you want to get alerts about what I'm up to, you could follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Thanks for coming to a reading of my poetry from my new book, To a Sunbeam and Other Poems. I hope you enjoyed it. See you at the next reading.